Hi folks, how are you doing? The third round of the ACP Golden Classic chess tournament was a rather spectacular one. All the players, it seems, they were in attacking modes and very creative games were played. Definitely some very beautiful games you don't want to miss. Let's go ahead and start with the one I like the most. I think this is probably the most beautiful one. Very impressive game. It was played between Sabino Brunello with white and Emil Sutovsky is playing with black pieces here. We have a Grunfeld defense and d5, and we're going into a very well-known line. Bishop g7, knight f3, c5, and bishop e3, a favorite of Vladimir Kramnik, among others. This queen a5 and queen d2 move. Now black has the option of going into this endgame, but okay, this wasn't the choice of Sutovsky. He just castled. Rook c1, bishop g4, and d5, among other options. White has c3 defended, so he can afford himself to get this pawn on d5. Knight to a6, and there it goes, h4. Going right for the attack, for the killer against the black king. h5, and now white plays knight g5 with the idea, I guess, to play f3 and support possible g4. And basically that's what happens. Black plays b5, winning space on the queen side. Now f3, bishop d7, sorry, and g4. This is already very beautiful and very brave, almost a 19th century game, it seems. I don't care if the engine says it's almost equal. This is precious chess. I mean, it's very beautiful to see someone going for the checkmate very early, someone very strong like Sabino Brunello, GM. H takes g5, and now intermediate move. White is not taking because black would just take it and it would be white in big problems. He keeps pushing, and it seems it here where Sutovsky almost loses the game playing g3. The engine is suggesting he should have taken an f3. After h6, play something like bishop e5. Knight takes the pawn back on f3. A check, bishop on f2. Now queen c7, defending the bishop, for instance, with a very complicated, complex position. Both kings being potentially weak. But, well, the engine at least says this was the best black had. But Emil Sutovsky just pushed the pawn to g3. And now black is virtually lost because after this, among other moves, white has this bishop h3 attacking the light squares here. And whenever and now that this bishop is going to be exchanged, all these light squares are going to be extremely weak for black, which is going to be the key to basically checkmate black king. Black just took on h3, rook takes, and tries desperately to get something going with b4. And here there are lots of moves winning, like d6, for instance, an intermediate move before taking on g3. This is what the engine likes. But don't get too fancy. I was thinking about knight d6, but this is losing, in fact, but for white. So the position is complicated, really complicated. Black has this bishop takes. It's winning at least the exchange. B takes. Now after queen c2, black has this knight b4 attacking the queen. If the queen goes to e2, c2, discover the tax here, and it's black who is winning here actually. So although the position must be objectively winning, because I mean black king is very weak, still precision is needed and you can't play carelessly. And Sabino plays very well here. He takes on g3. After b takes c3, he just goes to h2, threatening checkmate in 1, and this is the great point of the position. Black king is extremely vulnerable. The h file has been opened. The knight is a monster piece here, covering h7, f7, and black doesn't have enough compensation at all. Rook f6 seems almost the only move to avoid checkmate in 1. And now e5. These central pawns start rolling, completing the job. Now rook b6 is what black played. c2 discovered check isn't doing much because king f2 and black is still lost. There are no more checks, nothing really happening. So rook b6 is what tried. Emil Sutovsky here, but now queen h7 check, king f8 and e6, getting away with these d7 and f7 squares forever. c2 check, force played, but king f8, and black resigned after only 24 moves. Kind of a miniature game, spectacular flash game, because almost whatever black does, say for instance rook ab8, I don't know, just to say a move, white is taking for instance on g6 and checkmate is unstoppable. So there it goes. This is the first game of the third round in this Italian tournament in Bergamo. Very spectacular game. Let's see another game which was a rather flashy one with lots of firework and attacks. We have Wesley So with white pieces and Daniele Vocaturo from Italy as black. Here we saw the King's Indian defense. Another defense which can provide us with lots of fighting chess. We saw a very theoretical line here. Black castled, bishop e2, classical line with literally thousands of GM's games have being played. White castles, knight c6, I think this is called the Petrosian variation, but whatever, this is extremely very well known. Knight back, and now white has a couple of major options. Knight e1, which is I think was favored a lot by Korchnoi among others, and another favorite of Kramnik before the bayonet attack. Knight e1 is what Wesley chose. Knight d7 to play the typical, extremely typical f5 break in the King's Indian. White anticipates with f3, f5, bishop e3 developing a piece, f4, bishop back to f2, and oops, there it goes, g5. And still hundreds of GM games in this very popular and theoretical line. So theoretical battle here between Wesley So and Daniele Vocaturo. White plays rook c1. You know, in the King's Indian, usually white has the advantage in the center and the queen side and tries to expand here with d4, a4, etc. Meanwhile, black has the advantage on the king side and tries to go for the killing attack against white king with his bishop, the queen, the knights, the pawns, etc. So there it goes, rook f6 with a fairly simple idea to put the rook on h6 and have an attack going on here on the h file. Improving pieces, knight d3. And here rook h6 is the most popular continuation. But it seems Vocaturo was very well prepared and he is following a game by Timur Jabov in 2012, I think, in an Olympiad, and plays b6 first, taking c5 under heavy control. I think the bishop isn't going to play here or here because usually the bishop is very useful on this diagonal to try to attack white king, so not there but here. So I think this would be the idea of black, just to control c5 and to keep the bishop here on this diagonal. White still plays b4. I mean, that's what he has to do, try to play on the queen side. On the king side, he has just to defend. Rook h6, c5, and a6, still following that game, Sambuyev versus Radjabov 2012. Now c takes d, and g4, trying to blockade this light square bishop I just mentioned, not to be trying to make it as harmless as possible for his king. take en passant, h takes, knight to g6. And well, you know, in the King's Indian, white must play always with caution, because black's kingside attacks are usually very deadly if white is careless. So Wesley So is being very precise here, playing prophylactic move, just evacuating the first rank to put the rook here to neutralize kind of the black forces. And well, knowing that he has the advantage in the center and the queen side, he's just taking prophylactic measures to try to stop black's attack here on the king side. Knight comes to f6 and rook h1. Black took, takes in the king, and b5. At the same time, black is trying to stop white's expansion on the queen side. Bishop to e3, attacking the pawn, h6, and white strikes with d7, attacking b5. If black takes, there is a weakness here, so black just defends the weak pawn. A takes, and now, as I have said in other occasions, something we can learn definitely from GMs. They are constantly improving pieces. Now this knight on d3 doesn't have that many squares to go, so it's improved to f2, knight to h5, attacking g3, king to h2, very important move, king to h2. Why not king g2? Well, then black would have this spectacular piece sacrifice, knight from g to f4 check. If pawn takes, white king is really in some trouble. Bishop is a great piece attacking here. The queen is willing to go to g5 with check. The knight is controlling everywhere, and these pawns are really kind of stopping white pieces from helping the king. So this would be a really dangerous position for white. But Wesley So sees that, and he plays king h2, rook a3, putting some pressure on the third rank with the pin, queen d2, queen e8, and queen b2, chasing the rook back to a8. Bishop d2, the idea is to relocate the knight through d1 to e3. So after queen f7, there it goes, knight to d1. Did I say the rook? This was the knight. Knight c d1. And there it goes. Vocaturo doesn't want to prepare it anymore. He just sacrifices a piece and goes for the killer attack. All in. Knight takes g3. King takes g3 and knight f4. This knight is doing a great job attacking the bishop right now. The queen has a clear way to try to get in. So, well, I mean, it's of course a piece down for black, but this is what the King's Indian is about most times. Try to attack a white king with all you get. So very interesting and a brave decision by Vocaturo. Knight c3, defending the bishop. Rook f8. I mean, objectively speaking, the engine is saying, of course, white is winning because he's up a piece. But still, in between humans, white must be careful because there's an initiative, there's an attack going on, and this could be easily lost by white if he's not careful enough. But we're talking about a strong GM like Wesley So, who has great technique, a great positional sense, and we will see him kind of holding the hurricane here. G4, trying to open it up, everything for f takes, h5, and Wesley So brings the rook to the defense, rook g1, h takes, bishop takes, knight d3, giving another piece apparently. Well, the point is that if white takes on d3, bishop takes on g4, and this file is easier accessible to this rook and the queen. For instance, if black takes, there is this f3 square to get in, and this smells like checkmate because white king is not coming back from this journey to the center of the board. So definitely white must be cautious. He cannot just take the piece that easily, the second piece. But he plays queen e2. Now knight takes on f2, intermediate bishop takes d7 to deviate the queen, And now white is up a whole piece. He has succeeded in exchanging some of black pieces, and black attack. I mean, the bishop on d7 was playing a major role in the attack, controlling this diagonal, but now it's gone. So this is quite a success for white because there is no much attack left for black here. He plays rook f6, but after some precise moves like bishop e3, controlling squares, queen f7, king goes to h2, king f8, and rook g2. Sorry, king f8 and rook g2. Daniele Vocaturo just resigned, gave up because he's down a whole piece. I mean, white is taking b5, for instance, and there is no much attack going on. White king is going to shield here in g1, and there is no much left in the game to be played on, but still very brave and very interesting game by the Italian young player, going for the kill, sacrificing pieces in the king's Indian, so absolutely very well played. And let's see the third game of the round between the ever-creative Badur Jobava as white and Jan Nepomniatchi from Russia as black. We had the Alpine Sicilian, the C3 Sicilian, d4 and knight f6. And here, Jobava chose f3, and funny looking move. Knight bd7, bishop to e3, always playing creative. This strong GM from Georgia. Bishop d3, bishop to g7, knight e2. Both players keep developing pieces. They castle. Now Nepomniatchi plays a6 with the idea to play b5, have a strong inside pawns. Knight d2, and there it goes, b5. White tries to undermine this pawn structure with a4 immediately. Rook b8, the pawns are exchanged here. And white has an open file for his rook on the a file and plays b4. After c4, bishop c2, the queen side is blocked. He has the open file, so it's time to try to play on the center or either on the king side. Black tries e5, h3. This middle game is quite complicated, lots of options for both to make decisions, to make plans, almost with everything still in the board. Just a couple of pawns have been traded. So important to keep track of the game here, for the players to not lose the coordination of their pieces, because there is lots of things going on, like f4 trying to break through. E takes d4 was played, bishop took, bishop to b7, putting lots of pressure on the e4 pawn, knight to g3, rook a8, rook e1, and those rooks were exchanged on a1. And now that this knight doesn't have that many squares to go here, once again, as I said in the previous game, something we could learn from GMs, constantly improving their pieces when there is nothing else to do. Knight to b8, definitely trying to go to c6, queen to d1, knight c6, and bishop f2. White doesn't want to lose the bishop pair yet. Knight d7, knight e2, knight f6, and now white doesn't repeat moves but plays g4, having strong pawns here, potentially attacking pieces. Queen a8, nice control of this potentially open diagonal, which could be in fact a of major importance here, because the king is here apparently safe, but if this diagonal is opened, you never know. Tactics may happen. Knight g3, knight back to d7, and e5. With some interesting pawns here. Jobava goes for the attack. Okay, the engine says black is slightly better, but the position I think is quite complicated, very complex here. It's easy to go wrong. After taking this d takes e5, white goes with the intermediate f5, trying to open up black's king side. Knight f6, knight d to e4, rook d8, a check here, intermediate check, bishop takes, and queen c1. This dark square diagonal may be interesting for the white queen to use. So bishop goes back to g7, protecting a6. Bishop b6, rook c8, and rook f1, joining with the rook, the possible attack here. And here is where Nepomniachtchi seems he goes wrong. The engine says he had this knight e7 move, having with very interesting squares here. And if bishop e3, knight d5, bishop e4, rook d8, complicated position, but the engine says this is better for black. I don't know, sometimes you don't understand what they mean. But instead, Nepomniachtchi plays queen a6, bishop c5, and now he goes once again knight b8, trying to relocate the knight once again, this time to d7. But white takes the open d-file, rook e8, knight d4. White is slowly taking the initiative. G takes f5, knight d6, attacking a bunch of things here. Rook d8, a pin, but the queen goes away. G5, and attacks the rook, by the way. So suddenly white has some pieces here which could be dangerous for black. Black in fact it seems losing already. He gives up the rook here, but very beautiful. I mean, the most beautiful part of the game starts now. White doesn't take the bishop, but he takes f5 with the double unstoppable threat to take on f7 or to take on a7, supported by the rook and the bishop. There is very little already that black can do. This is already gone. Bishop d5 protects at least f7, but rook takes h7 check, king f8. And now, very beautiful move. One of the most beautiful double pins I have ever seen. Queen g6. Now the queen is attacked by both the pawn and the rook, but neither of them can take because both are pinned by the rook and the bishop against the king. I mean, isn't this beautiful? A precious position, this one. The white queen attacked by both the rook and the pawn, but both of them are pinned against the king. So this is very funny, very beautiful. King e7, and white just takes on g7, gets his piece back. Knight back to d7, but queen g5 check. Black king is a very, very bad placed piece here. King e8 and bishop 2. Not sure. Oops, he didn't take. He played bishop e4. f6 attacks the queen, but queen has plenty of places to check. Bishop f7, queen h8 check, king to e7, now g5, breaking through, getting in and trying to checkmate black as soon as possible. He took on c5, b takes, queen a7. Now it's black who's pinning this pawn, but no big deal. Just g takes, f6 check. And here Nepomniachtchi had enough. He just resigned the game. I mean, what he's going to do, for instance, if king d7, bishop check, king c6, queen check, and if black puts the queen in between, well, thank you. I will take this and be a whole rook up in this absolutely winning endgame. So it was making no sense to keep playing the game down a whole rook. That's why Jan Nepomniachtchi resigned, and there it goes. A very, very spectacular third round in Italy in this ACP chess tournament. Thank you for all. Thank to all the players for having this fighting spirit and playing real interesting and battling chess. And thanks you all for watching.